Hello everybody, my name is Maher, and you know, for the past few years I thought I knew the Toy Story lore really well. But then Pixar made this movie, so I guess never mind. For those who don't know, Lightyear is a 2022 animated movie created by Pixar. It is an origin story for Buzz Lightyear, but not the toy Buzz. It is the real-life Buzz, but not the real-life Buzz. It's more of a movie that the toy was based on, and is the movie that Andy saw when he was a kid, which made him fall in love with Buzz, and is why he got a toy of Buzz Lightyear in the original Toy Story movie. This movie falls under the category of, why do we need this? Like, did we really need to know the origin story for Buzz Lightyear? Well, I guess we did, because Pixar saw those big, rich gaps in the lore. So yeah, this movie may not have a good reason to exist, but is it a good movie? Let's find out. So the plot is relatively pretty simple. After accidentally crashing on the ship with a ton of people on it, Buzz starts testing new crystals so they can use Lightspeed to fly back to Earth. It ends up failing after doing it for 62 years, and when I say 62 years, I actually mean 6 days, since when Buzz travels due to Lightspeed, it only takes him 4 minutes, while the actual time on Earth, or not the Earth, the random planet, will actually take 4 years. So everyone decides to give up on this and create a new society. But Buzz decides that he does not want to do that, and he decides to test out another crystal one last time, illegally. And it actually works! But when he comes back, he is ambushed by a ship with robot invaders, all being controlled by the Emperor Zurg. Buzz ends up meeting up with a few newbies, who are locked out of the town, and while Buzz wants to stop the ship alone, the newbies need to teach Buzz that sometimes you need to work in a team and not work alone. Yes, this is the message of the story. Ending up, Buzz gets captured by Zurg, but in a plot twist, we learn that Zurg is actually Buzz from the future, and this Buzz has been working for years trying to turn time backwards to prevent the crash that marooned him and the rest of the people all that time ago. But present Buzz realizes that if he reverses time, then that'll take away all the lives of the people who grew up and all the families that are on this planet. So he decides to go with the plan, and the two Buzzes fight. Ending up with the help of the newbies, Buzz wins and decides to stay on the planet, and that was Lightyear. Now, I may have taken a lot of this movie to recap it, but if anything, that should show you how much filler is in this movie. Now, I just want to say that I'm about to criticize this movie, so before I do, let's talk about the pros. First things first, this movie's animation is really good. Usually I have an entire section dedicated to the animation, but to be honest, there isn't much I could say other than, it looks realistic, or it looks good. It's Pixar, no doubt it's gonna look good. I did also like the world building and all the little details that the Space Ranger had, like these food packs that cook themselves by snapping them, or how they were able to use like certain crystals or even mixed crystals to make fuel. It looked really cool, and I wish we got to see more of that in this world, like how it worked. Now notice that I only mentioned everything around it and not actually the story or the characters. It's because it's really basic and predictable and bland. Like, to be honest, it's really hard to find like pros for this movie. It's not because the movie is bad or anything, but because the movie's just like so bare bones that I can't think of anything to say. All I can really think of is just like, oh, this movie's fine. It's like, there's nothing you can really say. It's just like really basic. And yeah, that's all I really have to say, to be honest. It's weird, like, the movie's just okay. So I guess we should get on to my cons now. Now, like I said before, the main problem is the actual story. It is super bare bones, and while I never say I was bored watching the movie, it does make it really hard to talk about. Another problem is the moral. I can understand what the movie's trying to go for, needing to learn to work with a team plus not trying to spend your life on something, are both valid morals. But the execution is just really bad. Buzz was down to climb with the other Space Rangers, but when he found out that they're newbies, he decided to tell them that he can't work with them because he wants to keep them safe. And for the second moral, yeah, Buzz was too busy about finishing the mission. But by the end, he decides to just accept that he's gonna live on a random planet for the rest of his life. And in the context of the movie, this is very dumb. And it would be different if Buzz was too focused on it despite it always failing and needing to learn to let it go, but he found a working formula for Lightspeed. The only problem is that older Buzz wants to reverse time to get them home before he crashes it. And that is a problem that I get why Buzz wouldn't want to do. You're taking away the families and lives that started after the crash. But why can't you just use the crystal to fly back home now in the present? Yes, it got destroyed at the end of the movie, but you figured out how to make it, so why don't you just do the same thing again? I just find it dumb that Buzz just accepts he's gonna live out the rest of his days on this random planet, instead of going home to where his family is. Putting the dome over this little town won't fix the fact that you will lose materials eventually, and from what we saw, this planet doesn't have much materials to begin with. So you cannot get like food or power by just going outside to the planet. This ending also gave me big Toy Story 4 vibes of, hey, instead of going home, let's just abandon our friends and family and go live in the middle of nowhere instead. It just really bugs me about this, especially because of the fact that they could have gone home. They act like the only way for it to work is by turning back time, but that isn't what you need. This movie makes no sense. Anyway, Another comment is how they tied into the Toy Story series is how Buzz will just make a random quote that he said in the Toy Story movies. Like, it just felt tacky, to be honest. And another thing I didn't like was how it explained certain elements, like how they handled Zurg. So basically, Buzz found a random ship with a bunch of robots on him and decided to use them to commit terrorism. And the reason why he's called Zurg is because that's the only word that the robots say. Really? That is Zurg's origin story? It's underwhelming and it's only there for a plot twist to make people shocked. And Zurg's motivations are stupid. Why didn't Buzz tell him that they figured out the formula and they could just remake it? Why was Buzz so quick to become evil and put people's lives on the line when he felt obligated to help them? Because it was a mistake that he did. This feels counterintuitive. Zurg is easily the worst part of the movie. He isn't bad, but the fact that he had so much potential and they completely chucked it out for a stupid plot twist ruins it for me. The Zurg in toy form in Toy Story 2 was more threatening. This shouldn't happen. Also, Buzz for the entire movie felt like he was responsible for getting people back home, but like, no one was complaining. They were all okay living their lives in this random planet. It wasn't like other movies where like a main character would screw up and everyone hates him for that. They were all fine. I don't know why this movie is doing this. It makes no sense. Another problem is how bland this movie is. This movie did not need to be 2 hours. It has filler, and while it's not the worst thing I've seen, there was tons of times where I kept watching it and I was just like, oh, they're still doing this? Like the pen gag, where sometimes it just goes on for too long. Oh yeah, and there's also the comedy. It's half good. The movie keeps flip-flopping whenever it wants to take itself seriously or be funny, because sometimes it tries to take itself seriously, but then other times there's a random one-liner joke and it doesn't land. Sometimes it can be funny, but most of the time it's just meh. The cat toy thing is fine, but I can tell it's only here to sell toys. The newbie Space Rangers are two-dimensional and their personalities are just, one is old and crazy, one is big but scared, one is annoying. Also, Buzz realizing that he likes the newbies comes out of nowhere. He did not show that he even, like, started to like them, but then, like, now he wants to train with them, I guess? To be honest, I could go on and on, but I don't want to sound like I'm nitpicking, so let's just end it here. Overall, Lightyear is a prequel that did not need to exist. It is an extremely flawed movie when you look at it even slightly critical, and with random plot holes and stuff that makes no sense, it makes me more confused than before I even watched it. Well, this movie sucked. Now look on the bright side, at least I can still watch that pretty good Saturday morning cartoon of Buzz Lightyear on Disney+. Dang!